Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the president of Romance Writers of America, Cindy Kirk.
Hey, good morning. I bet everybody's like bright and chipper today. We have an exciting day planned, starting with our dynamic featured speaker and ending tonight with the presentation of the Rita and Golden Heart Awards. Good luck to everybody. Before we hear from our speaker, I'd like to announce the name of today's lucky winner, and all probably she had to do, remember, couple hours of volunteering. So she gets a free 2016 RWA conference registration in beautiful San Diego. Today's winner is Sarah Hager. Congratulations, Sarah. And now, it's my pleasure to introduce our featured speaker, Nalini Singh. Nalini is a Rita-nominated author of 38 novels and novellas, including the best-selling Psy Changeling and Guide Hunter series. She is a USA Today and New York Times best-selling author. She is also the recipient of the Australian Romance Readers Award, the German Love Letter Award, and the All About Romance annual poll for Best Paranormal Romance. Please join me in welcoming Nalini Singh.
Good morning. I expected everyone to be hungover and in their rooms today, but here you all are. So when they asked me to do this speech, I was excited. And I spent, a lot of time crafting my speech, so I'd be all ready when I got to New York. And then I got here on the first day of RWA, and I decided my speech was crap. And I was like, oh no, what am I going to do now? So every spare minute I had, I kept going up to my room and, editing my speech to make it even better. And then I realized I actually had no time to, input the changes and print it out. So my speech, I don't know if you guys can see it. It looks like this. So at certain points, I'll probably pause pensively, and you'll think she's thinking deep thoughts. No, I'm really just trying to read what I wrote. It's pretty surreal for me to be up on this stage because many moons ago, I attended my first RWA conference ever in New York. I had just sold my first book not that long ago, and it was coming out in a few months, and, of course I had quit my day job because that was a sensible thing to do. And I had decided to run off to Japan to teach English in a small rural town and write. But in between I had some time, so I thought, I'll travel. And coincidentally, the RWA conference was in New York that year, and I thought, wow, I'll just travel through the States, see everything, and then I'll go to RWA and I'll fly home. So that wasn't hard to convince myself to do that. But my last stop before RWA was San Francisco, and because I was young and adventurous and not very used to creature comforts, I decided I would take the train from San Francisco to New York. Yeah, you're all laughing. Yeah. So I think it was meant to be 3 days, which I thought, it'll be fun. And also, because I was cheap and young, I didn't book like a sleeper car, just like a seat. Yeah. I thought I was brilliant. I thought I would see so much of the country and just have such a good time. And I did see some amazing things, which I think you can only see on the train because there's no roads that go through some parts of your country. I don't know why you're all laughing. Then, except, I didn't allow for the hiccups. So there was a time I woke up and I had, fallen asleep on the train. It was very late at night, and I looked out, and all I could see was like nothing, like desert, endless desert. And I was like, oh my God, we have broken down in the salt flats of Utah, and no one is ever going to find us again. I mean, Amtrak may disagree with me. They may say, we were just stopping to pick up passengers, and you were so sleep deprived that you thought you were broken down. But I am convinced, So anyway, that's fine. We did get out of there. There was no ghost train that people are going to look for out of San Francisco. And I really did see some breathtaking landscapes. It's just the train passes through mountains, you pass by rivers and lakes, and it was really, really beautiful. Then, that's coming, right? Then the train engine overheated. At the foot of a mountain. So we're stuck at the bottom of a mountain in the middle of nowhere. And now I'm like, okay, that's good. I still have time. I can make RWA, don't panic. So we're waiting, and I think the whole train started to overheat because I think they can't run the air conditioning if the engine's not running. Eventually, they did find another engine, and it had to be back down to us because there was no way to bring it forward. So it had to come from, I don't know where it came from. So the first engine kind of got pulled away, and the other one back down because, of course, our train was blocking the whole line. So, hooray, we have a new engine. So we're good to go and running very, very, very late. Then they're like, because we're so late, everyone's going to get a meal. And so, okay, that's nice. So we go to the restaurant, and they weren't, they're not prepared to serve a whole train full of passengers. So there's no choice. It's just, here you are, just eat this. I don't even know what it was. So I think I ate the lettuce. It was good. And then, the facilities kind of overloaded because it should have, the train should have pulled into a station by then and been cleaned up. At this point, I'm thinking, I'm never going to get to New York. It just, and soon I'll run out of granola bars, and then I'll starve, and, So I have an imagination. So finally, we pull into Philadelphia. And I can't remember what time it was. It's like 8 or something. And they're like, you're all going to be put up in a hotel for the night, and you catch your connecting trains the next day. And everyone else was like, oh, thank God. And I was like, oh my God, that means I missed the first day of RWA. So, and that was a really big deal for me because, I have to tell you, this was in the Stone Age. You're probably thinking, why didn't you figure out a bus, whatever. This was when you had the brick phones, with the buttons. There was like no smartphone. And so I didn't, I was like, I don't know what to do. So I figured I would have to stay the night. And this was a really big deal for me because I wasn't only a young woman from New Zealand who had come, all this way. I was a child born in Fiji. And most of you have probably only ever heard of Fiji through Fiji water, right? Yeah, it's a country. It's like this big. It's in the Pacific Ocean, about 3 hours from New Zealand by air. And if you don't know where New Zealand is, it's next to Antarctica, at the bottom of the ocean. As a child, so Fiji isn't very big, right? And so we had one big library in the city, but everywhere else, the book bus would come. And I would wait for the book bus to come because I was a voracious reader, and I just loved to read. And I also loved making up stories, but it never occurred to me that I could write books that would be published and read by other people. I knew nobody who was a writer, and the idea of being a writer as a career was so foreign that it was just really difficult for me to imagine. And to sort of showcase how foreign it is to people that come from Fiji, there are still, I am convinced, there are still extended relatives in my family who think I live in my parents' basement, and that, they're supporting me because they just, but I have had conversations with people and oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a writer. And they just look at me like I'm speaking a foreign language. So, even after I moved to New Zealand, I simultaneously desperately wanted to be a writer and had trouble figuring out how I could possibly do it as a career. I think I was 18 or 17 when I started to surreptitiously submit manuscripts to, it was Mills & Boon in London. And I did that. I rang up the Mills & Boon distributor in New Zealand and said, how do I send my manuscript to editors? And they were very nice. They didn't say, you have no idea what you're doing. They sent me the guidelines and I followed them. And then it was 3 years later that I saw an article in the paper about the Romance Writers of New Zealand, and I finally joined an organization where I met working writers for the first time, women who were making it their career. And it was 4 years after that. Ooh, who was that? Your cell phone just went. It was 4 years later that I sold my first book and got the call. And my journey was in no way smooth. I was talking to someone a week earlier, and they said they had the wall of shame, the rejection letters and things. Yeah, I've got a binder and another binder of shame. And I figured I'd just basically wear someone down until they published me, because they're like, then she'd at least stop sending us these manuscripts. But when I did sell, I thought, okay, I'm going to give myself a couple of years to do this. It's basically make or break time. And so I quit my job knowing I had a deadline at 2 years, that if I didn't get a career going, I would go back to the only job for which I was really trained. So you can see how much it meant to me to be coming to my first RWA. For the first time, I was going to be an almost published writer. And then I would go to Japan, and in a little town where nothing was open after 8, so I had no excuses not to write. But now I was stuck on a train platform in Philadelphia, which is very nice, but I did not want to be in Philadelphia. So I'm sulking on the platform, just and this train pulls in, another train, and the speaker system crackles. It's like, anyone going to New York? Anyone going to New York? We have some spaces on this train. I'm like, me, I am going to New York. So, I was backpacking, so I ran to the train, grabbed my backpack off it, and raced to the conductor, got myself on that train. So I arrived in New York, and it was awesome. First I did a thank you rain dance. Then I went to grab the small duffel bag I had checked in San Francisco, because it was my last stop, and I'd been very good the whole trip, but in San Francisco, I went a bit crazy on the souvenirs, because it was my first big trip, and yeah, of course that duffel bag hadn't arrived. What was I thinking? It was still on the other train. I didn't even care. I was so zen, because I was in New York. I had my backpack, which had my conference clothes, so I was good to go. And the very nice man at the Amtrak office promised to deliver the bag to my hotel when it arrived, which they did, by the way. I have to say, despite all the drama, I loved the train journey. It's still one of the most incredible trips I've ever taken. I'd recommend it to all of you, but please get a sleeper car. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so I'm in New York. Oh my God, my head just exploded, because, I come from a small, I was born in a very small country, and I grew up in a small country also. So New York is just overwhelming to the senses. But I'm here, and I'm excited. I'm also filthy. I'm dressed in cargo pants, sneakers that have seen better days, a check shirt that makes me look like a lumberjack, and a ball cap. And I've got this backpack that has been through, airplanes and train stations, bus stations. It was not in the best condition. So my original plan had been to get to New York early so that I could check in before everyone else and then appear super professional the next day. Clearly, that was not going to happen. So I slunk into the hotel, and you know, when you go into RWA, it's bustling with all these women who look very nice, and they're all checking in, and I was like, oh my God. Like, don't look at me, don't look at me. So I was like, I just sort of slunk to the end of the line, the queue, and, you know, I was kind of sniffing myself to see if I smelled. My only consolation was that nobody knew who I was. So, you know, I was just nobody. I was like a brand new newbie who basically knew nobody. And I was totally wide-eyed at being around all these incredible writers that I'd loved and admired from afar for so long. I just really did not want them to even just look in my direction, you know, until I'd had a shower. So, you know, it's working. I was like, oh, this is good. Nobody's looking at me. Nobody's talking to me. They probably think I'm just some person who wandered in off the street. It's all good. And then, the woman in the line in front of me turned around and said, hey, are you Nalini? I was like, what? Somehow, out of all the thousands of people in the hotel, I had ended up behind someone who knew me from a message board. What are the chances? So first of all, why did I tell you that story? First, to wake you up with a bit of a laugh, hopefully. And second, to tell you that if you have had a shower today, you are already ahead of where I was at my very first RWA conference. And there's a third point, which is that I wanted to comment on the sense of community that is so vibrant in the romance writing world. There was, you know, a writer from the other side, literally the other side of the world, and on my first night here, I met somebody I knew. That's kept continuing. I've kept meeting new people, kept making new friends over the years. So, you know, for those of you who are brand new newbies like I was back then, I hope you take the opportunities to connect, because some of those connections may end up being lifelong friends. And in this business, true friendship is really important. A true friend will not only tell you if your butt looks big in those jeans, they will be your rock through every twist and turn in your publishing journey. I'm lucky enough to have a number of my closest friends in this room today, and I cannot stress how much they mean to me and how important they've been in my writing journey. They were there with hugs and possibly bottles of liquor after rejections and bad reviews, and they've been there to celebrate with me at the successes as I have been with them. And now this is where I'm like, what did I write next? You know, back at the start, when I looked like a lumberjack, I would see writers together, and I would be like, how do they all know each other? Is there like a secret club? Can I join it? You know, how? Over the past 10 plus years, I won't tell you exactly how many, I've realized they all knew each other because they grew up together in the industry. I've grown up with countless incredible writers as well, and now sometimes, when I grab a coffee with one of them, I realize we must look like a secret club too. The true secret is that we've supported each other from day one. We've shared our knowledge and shared our strength with each other to keep each other going. The true secret, as I've said, is that, but I'm going to pause slightly and say when I was writing this speech, I thought it would be really nice to have some visuals so that my face would not be on giant screens. So I thought, oh, I know, I'll go through my photos from that first conference and, you know, show what I was, you know, young and shiny. And then I looked at those photos, and I realized, you know, I had taken photos with all my favorite authors, and I realized I had this manic gleam in my eye. I was like, so, yeah, no. And I'd like to apologize to all the authors I terrified their first year. I'm so sorry. I'm completely harmless, I promise. But back to the friendships, I can't stress how important that is. Writing is a solitary endeavor, but it doesn't have to be a lonely one. You can build your own community, your own smaller group, and at RWA you have this massive tribe to choose from, or to make connections, and find your own smaller tribe. We are all in this together, and I include not just writers, but industry people. The us is formed of all of us who love to read and to write. We are book people, and book people are amazing, wonderful creatures. Two book people can meet as strangers in an elevator and spend the next hour talking books without taking a breath. I mean, we always have opinions about books, stories to recommend, and more. A few days ago, and I won't name names to protect the guilty, I was at a dinner with, let's say, hypothetically, an editor, a blogger, another author, a publicist, and three innocent people who got trapped with us. And we talked about everything from tentacled heroes to sadomasochism and IKEA and our gushing love for a book published in the 80s. Where else could I have ever had that conversation? Come on. And I think we might have traumatized a certain husband, like, forever. So he's never ever going to come out to dinner with his wife again. Yeah. So basically what I'm saying is, if you're new to RWA, or even if you have been a member for a while, if you take one thing away from this conference, I hope it's a new friendship, a true friend who will stick by you through the roller coaster that is a writer's life. Many of you have felt the jolts, the soaring highs, and the stomach-churning drops of the roller coaster that is this industry. Especially in the past few years, I think we can all agree it's been kind of like, woo, woo, woo. And I've met so many people this year who've said, the mood of the conference feels really upbeat and steady, and I think that's awesome. Because so many things have changed in our industry since I started. Just like my cell phone is no longer a brick, Some of it has been exciting, some of it's scary, but the love of story unites us all, and I think it's critical that we remember that. Quite often I find these days that I've had a long conversation with another writer, and all we've talked about is the state of the industry and the changes. That's a good thing, because we should all be aware of our industry and what's happening in it. After all, we are all CEOs of our own personal business, each and every one of us. It doesn't matter how you publish, you are your own tiny enterprise, and you need to know the nuts and bolts of your business. However, I think we have to be careful that the nuts and bolts don't overtake the love of storytelling that brought most of us to writing in the first place. I've seen so many stressed out writers of late as people try to maintain production schedules and juggle multiple deadlines while keeping up with their social media and message boards. I've seen people get so overwhelmed by it all that writing became a source of constant stress rather than joy. And their writing journey has derailed in painful ways as a result. Did you see how I did that? I brought in the train things. That was one of my late night get up. Oh, that's genius. Put that up. But seriously, I want you all to please protect the joy in your writing. I truly believe that it's that flame of joy that will drive you forward no matter what. So today I am offering to write you all a note excusing you from your myriad responsibilities so you can write. If anyone bothers you, say Nalini said I could do this. Since I live in New Zealand, there's very little chance anyone will, track me down, and because in New Zealand they don't know who I am, so it's all good. The reason for taking care of yourself and your writer's heart is that we pour those hearts into our stories. As such, we have to give them room to breathe and to grow. Don't let your heart be crushed by a mass of outside factors. I feel as if sometimes we all just need to take a breath, especially now, with the world seeming to move so fast in publishing. Take that breath, give yourself room to think, and remember why you became a writer in the first place. Do as my train did and have a pause. For me, despite the fact that I had so much trouble imagining my name on the cover of a book, it was a compulsion to sit down and write my stories. As a teenager, I used to sit in the kitchen and read my stories out to my mom, and then later I forced my sister to attend brain trust meetings where we came up with titles. And she would say, "Can I leave?" And I'd be, "No. We don't have a title yet." And I may possibly still do that. And both my mom and my sister are here today, so that's really awesome. Hi, guys. So that compulsion, that drive to create stories, it drives me to this day. I believe that when we write to our passion, it shows on the page. Some of us bleed onto the page, others laugh onto it, others seduce. But through it all is a passion and a love for the story. That passion speaks to readers in a way nuts and bolts never will. Others may denigrate our genre, but what matters to me are the opinions of my readers. And those readers love romance in a way that those who look down on our genre will never understand. I say that as a romance reader of decades, and as a writer who has been part of this community, of this really vibrant community for going on 20 years. During that time, I've received letters and emails from all over the world. There was a young woman who wrote to tell me how she'd had the day from hell. It was just one of those days where the bus splashes you as you're going to work, and then your boss yells at you, and she just had the most awful day. And she came home to find that a book she'd ordered of mine had arrived. And she just stood there and burst into tears because she knew she could just relax for a few hours. She could let it all go, sit down with the book and just have a glass of wine and be okay. And then there was the really heartbreaking letter I received from a girl who had survived some really terrible things. And she wrote to thank me for writing a broken, self-destructive, imperfect heroine like her, because this heroine had found her happy ever after, and it gave her hope that one day she too could find her happy ever after. And I think about her often, and I hope that she did find it, and that one day she'll write to me and tell me that she made it. That connection between these readers and so many others was made across continents because of a love of the stories we tell and the stories we love to read. I have so many, just like that writer I met in that line so long ago. I have so many memories just as moving, so many emails and letters that have broken my heart while teaching me again and again that the stories we tell are powerful. Never doubt that, and never let anyone else make you doubt it. As with my journey to the stage today, there will be smooth passages in your career. There will be times when you break down in the salt flats of Utah and think no one is ever going to find you. And there will be time when you see the most astonishing beauty in your words. And of course, there will be times when you feel like an unwashed imposter in a room full of people who seem to know exactly what they're doing. Here's a secret: nobody knows what they're doing. We're all just making it up as we go along. But the thing is, none of that matters. If you keep writing with joy in your heart, keep making those human connections with other writers and book people, and especially with readers scattered far and wide, you never know when your words will be the one thing that helps someone through the darkest time in their life, or when your words will simply bring a smile to someone's face or laughter into someone's heart. What matters is our belief in what we do. I am a romance writer, and I am so proud to be one. And I hope you feel the same way. Thank you.
What a nice, uplifting talk for the morning. I thought Nalini's talk was so well timed because I think there is, and she was so right on in so much of what she said. We are a vibrant community, and it is a place, and I think there's so many people in this room that could tell you just what, like she did. This is a place where you can make new friends that you'll keep for years. And I hope all of you have been building your own smaller community during these past few days. And I love the good reminder to keep the joy. See, I was listening to it all. A good reminder to keep the joy and the love of the story at the forefront when sometimes the business interests get us down. There is so much positive energy in this room, and I can't imagine a better place to spend my birthday than with 2,400 of my closest friends. And one last note, the staff said it worked so well yesterday when you guys picked up any extra books at your table and took them to the back of the room. It saved them so much time that they're asking for you to do it again. And yeah, that's what happens when you do a good job the first time. We hope to see you tonight for the first live streaming of the 35th Annual Rita and Golden Heart Awards Ceremony. Have a wonderful day.